Fox News Alert, we have breaking news. Peter Doocy is in Washington for us because Nancy Pelosi has just responded to President Trump's letter in which he said, I'll be there on January 29th, next Tuesday. I'm going to give the State of the Union address, and we should just do this on location, on time, just like we planned. When you first invited me, she has now responded. Peter, what did she say?
She said, no, that's not going to happen. And even though the president and the Speaker of the House only work about 2 miles apart here in Washington, D.C., they have been communicating with letters, and we just got one that the Speaker of the House sent back to the president just a few minutes after the Republican leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy, introduced a resolution, a concurrent resolution that would have to be passed by the House and the Senate to let the president go forward with the State of the Union next Tuesday night. She says that's not going to happen. I'm going to read from the letter. Dear Mr. President, when I extended an invitation on January 3rd for you to deliver the State of the Union address, it was on the mutually agreed upon date, January 29th. At that time, there was no thought that the government would still be shut down. In my further correspondence of January 16th, I said we should work together to find a mutually agreeable date when government has reopened, and I hope we can still do that. I'm writing to inform you that the House of Representatives will not consider a concurrent resolution authorizing the President's State of the Union address in the House chamber until government has opened again. I look forward to welcoming you to the House on a mutually agreeable date for this address when government has been opened. Sincerely, Nancy Pelosi. So if the president still wants to go forward with the State of the Union address, he's going to have to find somewhere else. There has been talk on the Hill among the president's allies about maybe going somewhere outside of Washington, D.C. that could be meaningful to the agenda and to the platform that he's trying to push. But we don't have any specifics yet about where that might be, just not in the building behind me.
All right, joining us now to discuss all of tonight's breaking news, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Sarah, good to see you. Is the president have any reaction to Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman's prediction that millennials think like we're like the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change? Any official White House position?
Look, I don't think we're going to listen to her on much of anything, particularly not on matters that we're going to leave into the hands of a much, much higher authority, and certainly not listen to the freshman congresswoman on when the world may end. We're focused on what's happening in the world right now. We wish that Democrats like herself would engage in that conversation, help us fix some of the current problems we know exist, and work with us to get some things done, particularly on the border, fixing the national and humanitarian crisis. That's the kind of stuff we're focused on, not things that we're going to leave up to the hands of something and someone much more powerful than any of us.
All right, let's go to the issue, the shutdown, where we are. The president made a proposal to the Democrats. By the way, they rejected it before it was even, or some of them rejected it before they even heard what was in it. But these are supposed to be things that the Democrats like: Dreamers, DACA kids, etc. On top of 5 years ago, all the Democrats were in favor of building the wall and sounded like the president, but yet they have been offered one invitation after another. They refuse to sit down. They send aides and surrogates instead of themselves sitting down. At this point, it seems like the president will have to just go it alone. Do you have any news about that on any front?
Look, Sean, I certainly hope the president has to go it alone. One thing I do know is that Republicans have been in lockstep with the president because we actually believe in getting something done. The fact that Democrats went out before the president even put his proposal forward on Saturday and rejected it shows us exactly where they are, and that is that they're not looking to solve problems, but they're simply looking to kick the can down the road, obstruct any progress being made, whether it's on this issue or probably anything else. We've seen no indication that Democrats want to work with the president to actually fix the problems facing this country. I think it's a sad day in America when Nancy Pelosi rejects an idea before she's even heard it. But unfortunately, I think that she's showing us exactly who she is, what her priorities are, and that's not the American people. The only person in this process and in this back and forth that is actually doing something to help the 800,000 100,000 federal workers that's actually doing something to stop the opioid crisis, stop human trafficking, stop the national security crisis at our border is the president. Democrats claim to care about these people, claim to want to fix problems, yet they don't want to do anything about it. They want to ignore the problem and attack the president, and I think that is a very, very sad day, and I think it shows us what a leader is and what a leader isn't. The president's a leader, and Nancy Pelosi is nothing more than an obstructionist.
Let's go to the latest State of the Union address. Where are we there?
Nancy Pelosi invited the president. He accepted. She cited security concerns as a potential reason to delay that. The United States Secret Service and DHS have addressed those concerns, and we're moving forward until something changes on that front.
Will the president consider other options if the House is not open to her? I don't know where you're going to be able to get at least 535 members of Congress and invited guests, you know, in Washington. I'm sure there's a place, but I just don't know where that is.
I don't know if there would be a place that all of those members would attend, but the president's focus is on speaking to the American people. It's something he does every single day. Nobody does it better. And if Nancy Pelosi chooses to go in that direction, the president will continue to speak to the American people, and I'm sure he'll do that on that evening as well.
All right, let me ask you about what happened Friday with BuzzFeed. And if it's true, you had literally every major newspaper, every single network, so-called news channels, over 200 times go for if it's true and then spend hours after hour after hour saying impeachment without any verification on their own. Cheryl Atkinson has a list of 67 media mistakes in the Trump era, the definitive list. I printed out literally 47 small print pages of the Washington Examiner of mistakes the media has made in their reporting about the president in 1 year alone, and that would be 2017. His reaction to it, and does now the president's branding of fake news, is that forever etched into the minds of the American people when they see events like this on Friday and then followed by Covington and what happened to those students?
Honestly, Sean, we hope not. We hope fake news doesn't become the forever brand of the news media, because it's not good for the country. As the president said, he'd love for people to report things accurately. I think what happened with BuzzFeed is a great lesson for the media. Quit trying to be first and start trying to be right. We've seen time and time again where they run out there with these outrageous, ridiculous stories. One person reports it to begin with, and then they all jump on it. We saw it again with the Covington students. I've never seen people so happy to destroy a kid's life. When that becomes the norm in the media in America, simply because they're associated with this president, that is disgraceful, and that should never happen. Let's hope that this is a lesson to all of the media, to everyone. Let's focus on getting things right, not getting them first.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being with us.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez drawing some sharp reaction with her latest comments on our economy as she responded to critics of her plan to increase the top marginal tax rate in this country to 70%.
I do think a system that allows billionaires to exist when there are parts of Alabama where people are still getting ringworm because they don't have access to public health is wrong.
Maria Bartiromo joins us from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Maria, looks beautiful out there. And I know that this is a gathering of some of the richest people in the world right there in Davos. How do comments like that go over?
Well, I think you make a good point because you've got a lot of wealth here. But the truth is people look at that and say, what is that going to do to the economy if you make it so economically difficult for the highest earners? Let me just point out that according to the Tax Foundation, the top 10% of earners already pay almost 80% of all taxes. So you already have the highest earners paying their fair share, if you will. But, you know, this comment reminds me of something that Mayor de Blasio said about a week ago, and that was he told the gathering, look, there's a lot of money in this city. It's just in the wrong hands. Well, what exactly is the wrong hands? Is the wrong hands Ken Langone, the billionaire who just gave $100 million to NYU Medical School so that NYU could give out free medical school educations, or maybe it's in Steve Schwarzman's hands, who just gave hundreds of millions of dollars to the New York Public Library so that people could have access to new technology in the library. Or maybe it's someone like David Koch, or someone who who has given so much to medical schools, Hank Greenberg, having given hundreds of millions of dollars to New York Presbyterian. So you have to wonder what those billionaires would do with their money if the first thing they have to do is give 70% of it to the government. And let's talk about productivity for a second, a whole nother conversation. Are you going to really work incredibly hard with the belief that you could earn great success and you could get better and more wealth? And are you going to work really hard if you know that at a point you'll have to give it all to the government? I don't think so. Well, so those comments, to me, seem quite naive.
She said that when asked whether a world that allows for billionaires is a moral outcome, she responded, no, it's not. She did take exception with some billionaires, like Bill Gates, for example, or Warren Buffett. She did not say that they are immoral. Likely that might come up a couple times out there at the Economic Forum. We'll see. But meanwhile, what's the discussion? What's the tone out there? Obviously, the global economy is a huge conversation. China and a trade deal getting done. What are they talking about?
Yeah, for sure. Those are the two big subjects right now, along with technology and robotics. On the global economy, most people are acknowledging that we are looking at a global slowdown. The U.S. is best positioned, no doubt about it, given the tax cut plan and the boost to growth that we saw last year. But overall, a year ago, we were talking about a synchronized global growth story. Now we're pretty much talking about a synchronized global slowdown. Some economies worse off than others. But let's not forget, even though China's economy just slowed to 6%, I think any economy in the world would love to see 6% economic growth. So I'm not saying that this is, a catastrophe. Yes, we're coming down from higher levels, but I don't think people are predicting a recession, certainly not this year. China, people want to see a deal done. It looks like both countries really need to see a deal done. I expect something to be agreed upon, particularly China opening up its market, Sandra.
President Trump certainly wants the world to know things are booming here. He's tweeting about manufacturing this morning, among other things. Maria, we'll check back in with you out there in Davos, Switzerland. Thank you.